Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Unstoppable Overcomers. I'm your host, Dorothy Odell. I am the founder and president of Unstoppable Overcomers Productions, where we are a full service media company. And one of the events that we're doing is actually happening this Saturday. That's right, the third annual Don Grand Memorial Classic, Fun Classic, is being held this Saturday at the Tilbury Golf Course. It's going to be fun, and rumor has it that Miss Kimberly will be there, so that's exciting. We'll be together again. Maybe we'll do some lives and stuff out on the golf course, which will be fun. So there's tons of door prizes this year, guys. If you didn't get into registration, that's okay. Next year will be bigger and better than ever. And I promise you will want to register for next year. So once I have the date, you can start registering. With that, I have the distinct pleasure of bringing Melissa Rohlfs to the show. Welcome. Did I get your last name right, Melissa?
It's Rohlf. Rohlfs rhymes with golf. So I can't even say my own last name. So
I love it. Well, then I didn't mess that up terribly. Thank you. So, Melissa, I love what you do here. Melissa is a certified holistic health and life coach. And the conversation we're bringing tonight is her, the broken relationship that she had with food. And I love that topic, and I'll tell you why later. But first of all, let our audience know a little bit about yourself before we dig into your overcoming story. But if you could share a little bit about yourself, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm coming to you from hot and sunny Phoenix right now, where it's like soaring temperatures. But I'm a wife, I'm a mom. We've got a 16-year-old daughter, a 14-year-old son. And as you said, I'm holistic health and life coach.
Awesome. So let's dig into, let's just go right for it. Let's dig into your overcoming story. Mm-hmm. So let's share with us a little bit about your overcoming story then.
Yeah, so it's like my whole life. And it's funny because I think that looking back, you're like, oh my goodness, I really did overcome a lot. I don't think at the time you realize what you're overcoming. You're just kind of surviving probably.
Yep.
But for me, it started when I was 2. My father was murdered when I was a child. So grew up with not knowing who my dad was, not having that relationship, not having that role model in my life. And so I think at a very young age, I learned to go to food to feel better and to, just to feel good. Because as a child, I didn't know how to express all of these feelings that I had. My mom did remarry, and my stepfather, I think there were some things he hadn't worked through before he got married. And so our home was kind of chaotic. There were a lot of things happening that were out of control. And so food just became something I could control. So that carried out through middle school. High school, I kind of went the other side because, I had to go to prom and I had to have a date, and I was starting to be interested in boys and I wanted to be thin. And so I wasn't going to food as much. It was more the withholding. But then back in college and after college, it was back to binging, and finally got married and had kids. And really, I think what changed was having kids. And my husband was traveling for work. Our son was a newborn baby, not sleeping through the night. So I was exhausted, felt like I was doing things by myself with my husband traveling. And then our daughter had some undiagnosed food allergies and sensory processing disorder. And on top of all of that, I was diagnosed with PTSD from childhood trauma. So that's what I call the perfect storm that the Lord brought to bring healing and deliverance. And so that really started me on my journey, and that's what changed everything for me. So that's the high-powered overview.
Wow. First of all, I really have to say sorry for your loss for your dad. As a girl that lost her dad 3 years ago, that would be devastating. Mm-hmm. So I'm so sorry that happened to you. And a lot of similarities, using food to cope. In our house, if you were happy, you ate. If you were sad, you ate. If you were pissed off, you ate. Mm-hmm. And if it was a celebration, you ate even more. Mm-hmm. And so I can identify with that. And it's just if anybody's listening, for those of you that are listening right now, and you've had that, that's how you coped with things, put in the chat, that's you. We want to hear from you, because this is the conversation that funny, in 3 years, I've never had this conversation on the show. Mm-hmm. And it's something that I definitely can identify with. So I'm glad that you're here. And so, you know, that is a lot to unpack. And you're right. When you're going through trauma and when you're going through that thing, you don't know anything else but to put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
You know, and kudos for you. Keep going through the shitstorm and walk out on the other side.
Thank you. It was very messy and smelly. I'll just tell you that.
It generally is. But you also said that, you know, we go through things. God allows us to go through things so that we can help other people. I'm a firm believer in that.
Yes.
You know, because I'm thinking, why did I go through this, and all before I was 30? And, you know, I get that. So let's go back here. So, you know, your relationship with food. So, okay, how did that work in your world? For me, I would like binge and purge.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I never even said that out loud, but there's a book coming out that there's 10 of us. And that was the first time I shared that. So I was just like, you know, my mom doesn't even know that. And I don't know if she'll ever listen to this episode, but it doesn't matter. We're here for your story. So tell us how, you know, that came about, your broken relationship.
Yeah, I think it was in childhood. I never purged because I didn't like the whole getting sick idea. I just wanted to eat the food and try to push the feelings down, I think is kind of where it came from for me. But it was always, you know, Pop-Tarts and cookies and candy. And it was never like carrots and healthy granola bar. Like it was just complete junk food. But I think that habit started in childhood and it just became how I handled stress, how I handled overwhelm. And like you said, you know, how we handled celebrations and how we handled good things happening. And if it was stressful or just if we went to the grandparents' house, we would go to the cookie jar. Like it's just so interesting to look at the relationship with food in that way, because I don't think a lot of us do.
Right. Oh, 100%. 100%. And so when did you break that cycle, or have you broke that cycle?
Yeah, so that was like childhood, like 6 to 8 years. I think it started. I was 6 to 8 years old. It wasn't until married, had the 2 kids, so probably like early 30s that happened. And it was through therapy. It was through counseling. It was through going to a naturopath and learning about the impact of food on mood and overall health and energy. I had only associated food with weight. Up until that point, I wasn't aware that it affected your mood and your energy and your immune system. And there were all these amazing benefits that food, the way that God designed our bodies to have food service and nutrition and all of that, I was completely unaware. And so to really have that revelation and to see changes and start to feel good, I was like, oh my gosh, more people need to know about this. So it wasn't really until I went to school to get my certification as a health and life coach in 2018. And by that point, our son was 4, that I kind of figured out, oh, okay, this is, and that's kind of, I think, where more of the untangling began. It's almost like an onion, right? Like you have these layers and different pieces come off at different times. And there was the whole onion.
I love that you said that, because I've always said that healing is like an onion. You peel it layer after layer. So I love that you said that. And you're right. And sometimes we do things on autopilot and automatic where we don't even realize that we're doing it. Did you find that with your
100%? It was like, oh, I'm tired. I'll have a Diet Dr. Pepper. I'll have a big pretzel with cheese. Then I'll have some Swedish fish because they were all fat free. And I had that mindset again that if it's fat, it's bad for you. Well, we actually need fat. So I was just living off of like diet soda and like fat-free sugar candy, basically.
Wow. See, I would say my conversation was, if you ate carbs, that was bad.
Okay.
So I love that you brought that up, because each person is different, unique, right? So if you're listening right now, we would love to find out what your struggle was. You know, what was your thoughts on, hey, you know, this is what my thought process was, either fat was bad or good, or carbs are good. And, you know, there is so many diets out there, so many diets. So with that, I have a question. Let me back up, because as somebody who, you know, the relationship with food was not great, did you struggle with any, what's that word? Low self-esteem or anything like that with your journey? And tell us a little bit about that.
Low self-esteem, low confidence. I didn't like myself. I didn't believe in myself. And I think that was kind of the root of it, was like this sense of low self-worth. And I don't know where that came from. I don't know if it was like, oh, I don't have a dad, I'm not worthy. I don't know where that lie came in, but it was there from a very young age. And those two were just beating off of each other, right? Like, oh, it doesn't matter. You're not worth it. You're not worth taking care of. It doesn't matter. You could do this, do that, la, 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 la. And it was all rooted in that lie.
Right. Wow. It's funny because I came to the realization, you're right, going through coaching and going through different doctors, and some of the things that came up was like, oh, well, in our family, my dad was the oldest of 5, and he grew up where there was not really enough food to go around. Sometimes my grandfather would go hungry because he made sure the kids were fed and then my grandmother was fed, and he would be the last one. So that's how my dad grew up. So if there was no waste allowed in our house, if you were wasting, you were forced to eat what was ever on your plate. And so it was that, we knew that if we didn't eat everything, dad would get mad. So it was one of those things. Yes, we're frozen for some reason. Melissa is frozen. If you can hear us, Melissa, just there we go. All right, Melissa's frozen. We'll keep going with this here, and we will. I'm sure she will come back. Anyhow, what was I saying here? I was talking about, oh yeah, the different conversations around food that if we had to eat everything that was on our plate. So therefore, that was part of the conversation I had in my head. And so it ended up becoming like the human garbage can is one of the things that actually came up. I'm just going to bring Kimberly up until we can get Melissa unfrozen. Welcome, Kimberly. She's getting ready. Yeah, right. So Melissa is, oops. All right. So, all right. Melissa's frozen. Kimberly's figuring out her stuff. And I'm sure that Melissa will come back. With that, though, thanks for joining us. It's this food conversation that is important for a lot of us. A lot of us don't even realize that we have this. Oh, good. Melissa's back. There we go.
Sorry, technology.
I know. Well, see, and this is why I do the show live, because this is real life, guys. This is what happens. And that's why I don't edit anything. And so anyways, yes, the conversation, I'm not sure what you heard about my conversation with my dad.
Do you want me to tell you where I remember?
Yeah, sure.
So you're talking about your dad's dad and how there wasn't enough food to go around. So he would make sure the kids were fed, and then his wife, and then we froze.
Then I froze. All right. So what I was saying was, because my dad grew up with that poverty mindset mentality, he brought that to us, and we had to finish everything that was on the plate. Right. And so that was like, if we didn't finish it, then we were made wrong for it. And then, it became the human garbage disposal. And so that is part of the conversation. And ironically enough, I actually brought that into our home. And I was just like, until I was aware of it. And then I stopped it. I was like, nope. I'm not going to have my stepson go through that and be, and I would rather throw it out. And it's funny because when I throw food out, I'm like, oh God, please forgive me. And I'll throw it out. But I have that conversation in my head with my father. Like, do you have anybody that was that, what's the word I'm looking for, that would influence you to that degree?
Yeah, I think we all have those influences and those voices. I have so many people that I worked with who have been like, oh my gosh, if I didn't clean my plate, I would get in trouble, or I couldn't have dessert, or I couldn't leave the table. And that creates a memory. And so we're taught to believe that we have to finish everything on our plate. And that can go even deeper in like, oh my gosh, we're desiring acceptance, or we need the validation, or there's some like psychological thing that we're looking for in that even. So yes, that's very real, very valid, very deep.
Right. And so, that that is just one of the things that's out there. So with your situation, tell us, tell us more about that. Like, what are some of the things that, besides going to therapy and things like that, tell us some of the things that you did to overcome that, that may help our audience.
Yeah, I think the main thing was just like connecting with myself and my body and acknowledging, like, you know what, it's okay to have needs and it's okay to feel lonely and overwhelmed as a mom with two little kids who's home by herself. It's okay to feel this way. And I think really having like a safe place to share my feelings, to kind of get them out. Because when we keep it in, that's where I think we start to feel maybe shame or condemnation or guilt, because we're just sitting here like on this hamster wheel of our feelings and we're not sharing them and having them validated and figuring out what to do to get out of them. So I think that that's a big thing, is having a safe space to share your feelings, and knowing too that like God made you and you are made in his image. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. That is a truth that you can stand on. And I think so many times we think that we have to conform or be like everybody around us. So for me, I'm very like quirky. I think we all are in our own way, but I was scared to like be that person because I wanted to fit in and I wanted to be accepted. And so I wasn't ever really being my authentic self. So I think being your authentic self is another really amazing thing to do, because it's kind of a slap in the face to God, really. If you're not being who he made you to be, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't like the way you made me. You made a mistake. And that's not true. That's contrary to what the word says. So I think really just being your authentic self and letting the chips fall where they may. You might lose some relationships, but you're going to gain some really amazing, authentic ones along the way too.
I love that you said that. And Kimberly in the back is saying, Amen. We go to food instead of going to God for the support. She says chips. Of course, you brought up chips. Um, what is, so we know that Melissa's was diet pop and candy. So for those of you that are listening, we would love to hear in the comments what your go-to was, even as a kid or even now. I can definitely say that over the years it's gotten a lot better, but I mean, there's still some things that I don't even want in the house, because if it's in the house, I know I'm going to eat it.
Yeah.
And so having that, what do you call it? Willpower. Willpower only goes so far.
Yeah.
But if you know that it's not something that you want to eat, and I like you said something earlier before, making yourself wrong for making those food choices.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us do that.
Yeah.
And it's deciding to choose to make a different lifestyle change, instead of just oh, let's grab this diet for this week and grab this diet for this week. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think a big piece of that is if we can replace judgment with curiosity, that's another really big game changer. And this will apply outside of this, but I mean, just practicing it here and it will ripple out. But like, if you really ask, okay, why did I go for the ice cream? What was I looking for? Was I even hungry? No. So what was I looking for the ice cream to do for me that I wasn't finding somewhere in my life? Because a craving is a messenger that we maybe need something in our life. Maybe we need more alone time. Maybe we need more time with the Lord. Maybe we need more social interaction. Maybe we need more creativity. So it's really just a craving. But I think we identify it as, oh, I'm craving something, and we think it's food. But maybe it's not even food that we're craving. So I think getting curious around that, what do I need? What am I looking for? What is this going to do for me? That can really kind of be a powerful pause before you dive into the chips or the ice cream or the cookie dough or whatever it is for you. A hug, right. Yes. Yep. A lot of times we need hugs.
Yes. Kimberly's saying you guys are
yay!
Inspired to grab an apple instead of comfort food. At the hospice right now with a loved one. And so I love that we're inspiring you, Kimberly. And I also know that at certain points you got to give yourself grace. But I love what you said, Melissa, becoming aware of why you're grabbing that food. A lot of times for myself, out of boredom, like if I'm at work and I'm bored, then the first thing I do, or if I'm ticked off or upset or whatever, that's the first thing I do. And it's funny, this is the first weekend and there was a lot of triggers this weekend, and I did not grab for food. I went for a walk, or I went and did met up with a new friend. So I think whatever whatever works best for you is what you do.
Yeah.
But I love what you said.
Thank you. And I think it's hard with food because, we know that people are addicted to things like, drugs and alcohol and shopping even. But I think food is tricky because we do need food to survive. It's a necessity. But I think it gets confusing too because food is legal, it's socially acceptable, and it's what people do. I mean, there's so much around food that it becomes hard to kind of separate that.
I love that you said that because food is a necessity. Without it, you'll die eventually. But you're right. Without it, and so it's choosing wisely on what you want and choosing a path. There's something that I just shout out to a friend of mine, Jen Zahari at Strong Health Holds Foundation. She sent me this guide where even putting different, like the right foods together, and that was something that I had heard that before back when in the anybody knows the Trim Healthy Mama series. I did that for a while, and but it makes sense if you put the different combinations of food together that are supposed to be together, but that's we could have a whole episode of just that. Love it. So Melissa, tell us a little bit about your coaching here, because I know, is this what you help other people accomplish?
Yeah, so it's really funny because I started off focusing, like, I got out of school, I'm like, I'm going to help moms, because my thought was I'm going to help moms and then they can help their kids. It'll be this beautiful ripple effect on the family. And God, he let me go that way for a little while. And then a few years ago, he's like, let's try working with teenage girls. And I was like, okay. So brought some teenage girls, and that's been really beautiful because I think the teenagers almost have more of an impact on their parents than I do. Because what I found was a lot of the moms were like, oh, I'll do this for me and I'll work on this, but then I'm still going to let my kids do whatever. And I'm going to, there wasn't the transformation that I hoped for in both scenes. Whereas I think the teens have more influence on the moms. So that's been really exciting to work with teen girls and help them find freedom in their relationship with food and a positive body image. And of course, moms as well who want to share that with their girls, but that's why I help moms and teen girls. So super exciting.
I love that. And so has your daughter had to have this conversation about food?
No, and bless her. Like, this is what I just think is so great about how I was raised versus how she's being raised, is that no issues, no struggles, very confident, very positive relationship with food, her body. And it's really neat. For her 15th birthday last year, she had all of her friends, we bought these canvases and some paints, and she had them take their fingerprints and make hearts on the canvas and then write things that they love about themselves and their bodies. And I was like, how exciting for teenage girls to like have that appreciation for their bodies and the ways God made them at that young age. Cause I was not there then.
That is brilliant. As a mother, you did an amazing job with that.
She has a lot to do with it. I'm just kind of like,
I get you're guiding her, but without that guidance, she wouldn't have thought to do that, because my mom never thought to do that with me. And my mom is a great mom, don't get me wrong. It's just that's not her mom. Didn't teach her that, right? Her mom taught her it was okay to eat the cakes, the cookies, the whatever, and just medicate yourself with food is how my mom was taught. And so that's what we were taught, and so breaking that cycle is not easy, but going within, I like what you said, going within and get rid of all the garbage that's in there, the layer after layer of the layer of healing that you need to get to the next level.
Yeah. And I think there's, that's a really great point, is that it's not easy when you're like the one in your family who's changing this. Like, you're changing your family's trajectory. You're changing your, not genealogy. What am I looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? You're like breaking strongholds, basically. You're like changing things. Your legacy, that's what I was looking for. Yeah, thank you. You're changing things going forward. And that's not easy when you haven't had that modeled for you and that hasn't been what you've come from, generational curses. Yes, like all of that And I think to really like say, no, this is going to end with me is powerful.
100%. Okay, so I'm going to share something that I typically don't share on the show. So my grandmother's 91. She has dementia, and she's slipping really fast the last couple months. But as I've looked at her from the time that we put her into the nursing home till now, she was a big woman, very big woman, and I don't know exactly what her weight was. But she got into, my grandfather was a heck of a guy, but he was emotionally abusive. And then she found somebody that was emotionally and physically abusive. And so she used food to cope with that. And some of the conversations that I've had with her over the last couple of years, since we've had to put her into a nursing home, has been very enlightening. And she said there was always a lot of love in her family's home, like where she grew up as a child. So I'm really not sure how that translated into the relationships that she was in. But to see her, like, I can see that there was very little self-esteem, very little, like, going throughout the years, obviously from the choices that were made. And it's really funny because her advice to me forever has been, take care of your man. You got to make sure that he's taken care of. And so, and then I would say about 5-6 years ago, she lost a lot of weight. And then she was preaching, well, if you just had some willpower, she was saying this to my mother and stuff like that, but she didn't have it for 60 years. So, right. And so having that conversation, I'm not saying this to shame my grandmother. My grandmother, I don't even think she was aware of what she was saying, or even aware that it was perhaps not the correct thing, the correct way to look at things. But that was her way. And so seeing that, knowing that, wait a minute, and she was so afraid to leave the house and do different things. And so you're right, breaking those generational curses to say, well, wait a minute, I'm not going to stand for this for myself and for my children and my children's children. I mean, I'm blessed to have a stepson. I'll never have children of my own, but at least to bring that on to my nephews and their kids, if they ever decide to have kids. And just being, like you said, changing the legacy that we have and the conversations around food, around, being healthy. And it doesn't even have to be about weight. It's just about being healthy, because I don't know about you, but there's been a lot of medical issues in my family. And I believe it's all due to obesity and not taking care of yourself.
Yeah. And that's interesting from your story about your grandmother, how the message was always take care of your man, take care of your man. And then all of a sudden it was take care of yourself. What switched for her, I wonder?
I honestly don't know what the switch was for her. And I don't think I'll ever know. Right now, like I said, she slipped so bad the last couple weeks for sure, months, weeks for sure. But I don't even know. Her last partner has got to have been passed away for at least, I want to say 10, 12 years. So I'm not sure what the switch in that. I think she was finding it difficult, and my parents had to take care of her. So she knew that it was a lot to take, for my mom, especially to take care of her, because my mom had a lot of health issues, and my dad had cancer and things like that. So I think that's maybe the switch, not wanting to be a burden to her daughter, I think is probably what it was.
Yeah. It's a hard message though, when you've heard one thing and seen it modeled, and then all of a sudden to have it switch, it's like, hold on.
100%. And Kimberly said here, health is wealth and weight is the surface / byproduct. 100%.
Absolutely.
And you have to fix the inner, and then the outer will shine through. So I love that you said that, Kimberly. Thank you. So yeah, any other pearls of wisdom you would like to share with us today, Melissa? The floor is yours.
I just want people to know they can change. I think that we, grow up a certain way and think that this is my legacy, this is what I came from, this is how it's always going to be. That's garbage. That's not true at all. And I think that, what we're learning about neuroplasticity and the ability for our brains to change and have new thoughts. I mean, what does the Bible say? Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. How do we do that? We get in the word. Like, what we take in, if it doesn't line up with the word, then it's not true. And we don't really need to believe it, right? But I think we just receive things, whether it's in song or on TV or on the internet, and think, oh my gosh, that's true. And it's not necessarily the truth. So the fact is, you can change, you are capable to change, and you are more than a conqueror. That's what the Bible says.
I love that you said that. What would you say to a woman that comes to you? She's got a, say, 12-year-old daughter, and she knows that her daughter is struggling with the food conversation. She's got low self-esteem. She wants to go to the school dance, but boys are boys. And well, that's a whole other conversation. We could be here for days having that conversation. What was what would you say to that mom?
Well, what is the struggle? Is it that the girl wants to go to the dance, or she doesn't want to go to the dance? Like, I guess what's kind of the problem?
So has low self-esteem. She wants to go to the dance, but she doesn't like her body. She doesn't like her body. She thinks that she's ugly. She just doesn't want, she's shy, because they're shy at that age, which we know that that's a symptom of something else. So anyways, she just has like a low self-esteem, poor body image. What would you say to that mom?
Yeah, I would guess get curious, kind of find out, like, do you want to go to the dance? Why do you want to go? What are you looking forward to? What can we do to help you have an amazing experience? What kind of dress do you want to wear? Or what do you want to wear? What do you want your hair to look like? Like, how can we make this fun for you? Are there some people that you feel comfortable and confident with that you could maybe go with together and have dinner before and maybe go to the dance, or maybe just go out for something afterwards, whether it's boba tea or something, but just, how can this be a fun, positive experience for you? And what are you wanting to get out of it, and kind of reverse engineer it? I think that's always powerful, because I think the hard thing with moms is that we tend to put our stuff on our kids, right? Like, oh, when I was a 12-year-old, I didn't like my body. I didn't want to go to the dance. So I don't think my kid wants to go to the dance because I didn't want to go to the dance when I was 12. Well, that's not true. That's you're putting your stuff on your kid. So get curious and see kind of where they're at.
Right. What would you say some of the symptoms are? Like, you notice that there's a shift in your child, but you're not sure what it is. Maybe she's hiding food. Maybe you see something, because that's popular. I mean, I never had that problem, but some kids hide food. Some people will, say, "Oh, I'm not hungry," and then, go raid the pantry once mom and dad's sleeping. What would you say would be some of the warning signs for parents to look out for?
Yeah, I think, like you said, hiding food. You're finding wrappers. Maybe under the bed, maybe in the backpack, maybe in the pockets of clothes when you do the laundry. You're finding wrappers. Maybe you're noticing that food is leaving the pantry more quickly than normal. That would be a sign, I think, too. Maybe changes in how their clothes fit. I think, too, on the opposite end, if your child isn't eating as much, maybe they're kind of just shuffling their food around at dinner. That's always a red flag, instead of eating it. So I always try to be mindful of, okay, how much are they eating? Where are they eating? And just kind of making sure that they're listening to their body, they're getting what they need, and they're not either hiding food or they're not moving stuff around. And I think the hard thing is as a mom, like, we don't want that for our kids, but I think so many times we don't mean to say something, but we might say something that make them think, oh my gosh, I need to not do this. Or they might go to the flip side and say, oh my gosh, my mom doesn't let me have this, so when I can have access to it at school, I'm going to go wild with it. So it's a very fine line. Right.
It is so true. And, at the end of the day, we all need therapy anyways. Right. So, I don't know what you, but I would rather have those hard conversations with my child. And, if they're traumatized, well, they're going to be traumatized either way. Yes. And so that's why there's so many great amazing coaches like yourself, or doctors or things like that. We do a lot with mental health in what we do here with Unstoppable Overcomers, and so sometimes, you know, if a child um, is being bullied, let's just say if they're being bullied or whatever, that could lead to. I've read several articles on LinkedIn recently where cyberbullying led to a suicide. And so it's, I know growing up, I struggled with that a lot. I'm like, why am I even here? Type thing. Life would be better off without me. But there's one, I always kept a sure focus. Because I had extreme low self-esteem back then. I don't now, but I did back then. And just focusing on one thing to get through to the next thing. I never told my parents what was going on because I didn't want to be a burden or a bother. Growing up with parents that had a lot of medical problems and things like that, and I kept to myself. And so, my parents never had those conversations with me, but I don't even think they realized what was going on. And so, now I'm finding maybe it's a blessing I don't have my own children. So I don't have to, worry about that. But yeah, it just, I guess being aware as a parent of those things. Like if you see your child withdrawing and, have those hard conversations, because at the end of the day, we want our children here. It's tough. And I didn't mean to go down that route, but I mean, it is out there. Like that is a reality in this world that we live in.
Absolutely. And like you said, with, the bullying and the social and all of the access, it's coming at them in every which direction. It's not like when you and I were in school, we went to school and we just had to see that person all day. Like it's all directions now.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad I didn't have social media growing up. I couldn't imagine what life would have been back then. I mean, I had the bullies in the classroom bullying me then. That's how I grew up, and until I developed the thick skin and told them where to go. Um, Kimberly's saying people like that are listening and they need to know that they have somewhere to go. So yeah, I mean, it's a very real conversation, and it does happen. And so, there are in Canada, I believe the number is both the United States and Canada, isn't it 988 or something? I forget what the number is. If you feel that you're, past that point, just talking to mom and dad, and you really, really are at that point, there is a number to call. And I know Kimberly is. I'm sure she's going to say Google it. I'll Google it while Melissa talks. How's that? Because I don't remember what the number is. I should know. I think it's 981. But anyways. So yeah, what is your take on that, Melissa?
The best thing we can do for our kids is to be their safe space to land, right? Like the last thing that they want or need from us is us getting mad at them or judging them. So I think just being, curious and compassionate goes a long way with anybody really, but I think especially with teens, and just being that safe space, reassuring them that you love them, that you're there for them no matter what, you're not going to be mad at them, and you want what's best for them. How can you work with them to accomplish that? And I know their brains are not fully developed, but I think that they can understand that.
And it is 988 for the mental health crisis. That is both in Canada and the United States, because I'm so glad that both Canada and the United States got on board with something with mental health. So yes, if you're a teen watching this, or if you are a parent watching this and you're in crisis, definitely call that number. I am not a licensed therapist. I'm here if you want to talk to me, but I'm not a licensed therapist or somebody. I am trained in assist, but I really, go to a mental health professional. Is my caveat there for that. And if you need a coach, definitely get a hold of Melissa. Because Melissa has walked the walk and talked the talk through this, having that broken conversation with food, and helping teens out. And I'm so glad you do that. I really, it's funny. I don't have the patience for Let me rephrase that. I have more patience for veterans than I do teenagers. So I kudos to you for I can deal with people being sick. I can deal with people with mental health and trauma, but you put a kid in front of me and I'm just like, I don't know what to do because how I grew up and how they grew up is two different things. And I don't understand them nowadays.
I have to agree, and we just have to laugh because this is exactly what God did with me. So I became a Christian in college, and then out of college, I went into campus ministry. So I was working with college students. I love college students. College students are amazing. So then, fast forward a few years, married, had kids. We moved back to my hometown, and we started going to church there. Their youth leader left, and the pastor was like, "Would you and your husband like to be the youth leader?" And I'm like, "What?" This was middle school and high school. And I'm like, no, I don't work with middle school, high school. I can do college, but I cannot do middle school and high school. Well, God called us to it, changed my heart. So we did middle school, high school ministry for a while. We ended up moving. And I was like, okay, I'm done with that. And then sure enough, he brought him back. And I love it. Like, it's so funny because even with our daughter being in high school, she's on the basketball team. I love all those girls. I'm like, I don't know. It's funny how he works because I was there too.
Honestly, it would have to be a God thing because COVID cured me of I was the stepmom and the only parent out of four of us that could work from home back when it first started.
Yeah.
So after the real mom took her first month of leave to make sure everything was good. Well, we were still on lockdown here in Canada. So then it was my turn to step up. I cannot handle somebody coming into my office every 2 seconds. The teacher this, the teacher that, the teacher this. I'm like, go ask your teacher for help. Well, she said, then I have to wait my turn. I'm like, then wait your turn. Like, seriously. I was literally on my hands and knees. It was around July. My dad was still alive. It was the July before my dad passed away. And I said, how the hell did you raise the two of us? Like, I have no idea how you did it. I apologize for anything that I have done growing up. And my dad's like, you were a great kid. Like, honestly, we had no problems with you. And I said, well, if I ever messed up, I do apologize. And so I says, how do I do this? He goes, well, honey, you can't raise kids the way I raised you. I'm like, well, that's the only way I know. Because we were raised, if I said no the first time, don't ask a second time. If you didn't listen, your butt would be warmed. You can't do that nowadays. And that's Kimberly's like, that's why God gave you Melissa to refer kids to. Absolutely. I'll pass all the kids to you, Melissa.
Well, teenagers, please. The younger ones, not so much.
I'm telling you, give me a veteran that has been hanging on, and I can deal with that, not instead of children.
But isn't it cool how he has called all of us to different areas and different people, and we can all serve together in such a more powerful way than trying to do it on our own?
Amen to that. Amen to that. Yeah. Find your calling and stick with it. That's you're right. He doesn't call us to be there for everybody.
Because that doesn't work.
No, I tried that for several years and got burned out quick.
Yep. See, it leads to burnout.
Burnout, stress, overeating, and I get that.
Yep.
Oh, well, now it's time to bring the amazing Kimberly Genovese on to do her segment of the show. Welcome, dear sister. How are you?
I am well. And how is everyone else? You guys are killing it on the show tonight.
There's a lot coming up, like, seriously. I could go on for days, but I won't.
It's a deep topic, and it's necessity. I mean, that's what makes it so complex, I think, right?
Yeah.
100%. I'm so glad that we had Melissa on, but I'll shut up now and I'll let Kimberly talk.
Oh, please don't.
Oh, yes.
Please don't. So I'm thrilled to be here, as always. I am in the world of roaming and roving. I am in the wonderful city of Des Moines, Iowa tonight. So shout out to all of my fellow Des Moines folks. And classic, Holy Spirit guided show. I was born in Des Moines.
Oh, wow.
Oh, there you go.
And so this whole child, going back to childhood and how all this bleeds into childhood and how you work with children, Melissa, or not, moms and teens and all of that. It couldn't be more apropos that I would be in the city that I was born in, with my beautiful aunt who, helped my mom raise me up. So, and I'm just laughing at your conversations tonight because they're off the chain. They're perfect, right? It's like, oh yeah, did that. Oh yeah, wrappers, hiding candy, yeah, all that. All that yummy good stuff. Pun intended, yummy good, right? Yeah.
And while you're in Des Moines, you want to talk about yummy good or those Dutch letters? My husband's from Iowa.
Oh, come on. Of course he's from Iowa. Well,
and I love a Dutch letter.
Shout out to anybody who hears this show, and the state fair is coming up.
Ooh.
Oh, and they have like amazing food, and like my husband's a huge state fair fan, and hit this Des Moines, Iowa State Fair, nothing beats it. So there's that. And there's the tie-in, right? It's like literally the words around that are joyful literally stem from food commerce, like yummy good. It's all there, right? Across the board. So the interlocking of food and emotions for all of us, right? Fundamentally, right? We're gliding into the fundamentals here, right? It's hard to say where it starts and where it ends in the collective consciousness around that, and then we get to, right? We get to, as humans, deal with the health issues that different people might be dealing with, and then and let's not forget what big companies are doing to toxify our foods and our lands and our waters and right, to some point people just throw their hands up and go, this chemical cocktail is just too much to take. Where's the Susie Q? Screw it.
For lab meat, I saw an ad today for lab meat. I'm like, ugh.
Wait, can you do that again, Dorothy? See, there, more emotion. Like we talk emotionally with food references, right? So, and it's interesting because I just did the Camino in June in Europe, and the difference of their food and drink and how healthy their food and drink is in comparison to, America, Canada, right? It's like, so there's just anybody who's watching the show tonight, like, for reals, we get it. And we're unstoppable in supporting you. And Melissa, I can't wait to personally call you and have a conversation, because then there's so many factors. And like I said, sometimes you're just like, screw it, just hand me the Susie Q's. Screw it. Right. And so we're just so grateful we could bring you to people. And I'm assuming that you don't just work with moms and teenagers, and or if you do, which I also get that too, do you refer like men and boys and young children?
Yeah, I do. I do specifically work with women and teen girls, but I do refer out men and teen boys, and Okay, my belief is that I have to have had that experience to be able to help someone go through it. And I don't know what it's like to be a teen boy, and nor do I think I want to be having one. Like, just no thanks.
Well, and then, and right now, right, like the teens are, I mean, my heart and prayers incessantly go out to the younger generations right now, because they're dealing with faster changes. Like, no generation has ever dealt with as many changes, and it's only going to get faster with the level of technology we have. And then there's also, the level of choice that has become open to them, down to literally physical sexual preferences. It's just, it's a lot, so, all of you out there watching, hearing this, you can reach out to Dorothy, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to Melissa, whatever it is. Our commitment for you is to be unstoppable in all that you do, right? As Dorothy likes to so beautifully say. So with that in there, I'm going to do my quick little plug for Kimbra, which is the sponsor of this section, and which is we have our August free 411 event, which is Wednesday from 6 to 9. So just go to thekimbra.com to register, check it out, check us out, and any kind of scarcity around time, money, people, and or being able to get yourself focused on what it is you care about, that is what our Kimbra company manages and supports you with. I think manage is the wrong word. Empower you really through community and proven systems and structures that are simple, easy, and fun. So with that in the background, Melissa, we are super excited to hear your fundamentals.
Yes, they are. All right, let's do it. They are faith, freedom, and helping the whole person. Because I think the thing is that, like, God is a holistic God. He created us holistically, body, mind, and soul. But we want to separate it, right? Like, oh, this is my body. It's not going to, and no, they are. Like, it's the whole person. And within that, you can have the faith and the freedom. So those are my fundamentals.
Wow, you did that. I think it's a record. She did them faster than anyone has ever done it before. So I'm going to give you some room to color in between the lines. I love, like, the whole time you were speaking, I heard the whole, like WHOLE, like the whole and the wholeness and the wholesomeness. And I also like, okay, so two things. So I love your fundamentals. They're off the hook, as everyone's always is. And a conversation I've had, Melissa, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, is I feel personally led by Spirit to share with the world that it runs spirit, body, mind. So first of all, like the holy and holy Trinity, that is the vessel, that is the church. It's the fundamental church, right? Is spirit, then body, right? The spirit goes to the body and then to the mind. But how the enemy likes to play and be the, the half truths, right? Like, it's like, well, it's kind of true. No, we're going to think mind, body, spirit. It's like, that's backwards. Like, no wonder we're, upped, right? Because we're not even listening wholly. Like you said, we're in parts, and then we're backwards. We're mind, body, spirit. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It makes perfect sense. I mean, if as believers, we are under the headship of Christ, so spirit is first, right? And through him and in him, that's how we are transformed by the renewing of our minds. We are, stewarding our bodies. They are temples of the Holy Spirit. Like, that's biblical. So I think you're right. I think it has been messed up. And I wonder how that came to be. Like, is it because it's alphabetical, like body, mind, spirit, BM? I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud
girlfriend, come on. Come on. You know how that happened. This world is not like, we're in the world, right? We're not of the world. Right. So anything in the world that's twisted or contorted, well, it's kind of true, right? You know where that comes from.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, because for myself, I'm wondering, like, well, how did that happen? Because I do try to alphabetize things, and I wonder if that was like an attack, you know what I mean, on my mind to like make organization.
100%.
Okay, 100%. I'm just gonna write this down.
Oh, please write it down. I got another one for you. My other pet peeve is goosebumps. Everybody who knows me knows this, right?
Goosebumps.
So,
They're God bumps.
So I call them glory bumps. And
Okay.
yes, right? But it literally, when your body does that, it is a communication from spirit to say, you're on track.
Yep.
You're 100% on track. And I remember the first time I sat down in prayer and meditation with that, and I was outraged. Like I was like, as much so as the body, mind, spirit garbage, right? You know? Yeah. And I'm like, oh, he's such a, right? Like, because he does what he does. He just like who did he breathe that into that turned glory bumps into goosebumps so that the power could get diluted.
Yeah.
So that we'd be like, oh, that's just a goosebump, right? Versus, oh no, I'm on track with the Holy Spirit. Let's move into that thing right there. Yeah. Right. So that's my other one. Okay. So the other thing I love that you said about your fundamentals, because they're so bad, you know what? A++. When you said the wholeness, right? And how, because they think about it, right? Like there's people separate God from Jesus, from Holy Spirit. It's the same thing.
Yep.
So it is, I mean, I appreciate as children of God and the human condition that logistically and logically we've been taught to separate. And I do believe it's challenging to take it on from a place of like, they're separate, but they're one.
Yeah.
And the invitation that I give to people, what helps me with that is to simply proclaim it, right? They are one. I declare they're one, therefore they are one. They're one. My body, my mind, my spirit, it's one. Yeah. Right? It's whole, it's perfect, and it's complete. As a declaration, right?
Yes.
And that could help people start to have the sensation that this is just one.
Yeah.
Like we don't think about our heart and our hands and our feet. They're not like our hands and our feet and our can't function.
Yeah.
Separate.
Yeah.
So maybe that, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think those are good ways for people to help them? How would you help them bring it together?
To that verse in the Bible in Corinthians, like, you know, isn't it in Corinthians about like, who is the hand to say to the eye? I mean, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. But forgive me, I am not a verse quoter like so many amazing women are, and men, Christians, whoever, right? The ones that can do that, they blow my mind.
I feel like that's where it is. And I think that that's like what you're saying is that it all works together. And one part doesn't ever say to the other part, oh, I don't need you, or you're not good because you're not whatever. Like, that's not how it works.
How does it go? Hands, feet.
We're gonna Google it.
See, I never tell anyone to do what I don't do, which I'm all about this Google thing.
She's usually Johnny on the spot.
I am. I'm doing it right now, but I can't remember what she said the verse was. What was
I thought it was in Corinthians, but I could be totally wrong.
Well, what was it? Can you say the verse again?
No, I don't know.
Okay. I love you. That's awesome. Hands don't.
Something about the hands and the feet.
Yeah, the hands don't say to the eye, like the. This is gonna.
Here we go. The eye cannot say to the hand, "I don't need you."
Yes.
And the head cannot say to the feet, "I don't need you."
Yes.
1 Corinthians 12.
Okay, so I kind of was right.
You were totally right. You said, you said Corinthians, didn't you?
Yeah, but I didn't say which number. I just said Corinthians.
That's okay. That's okay. On the contrary, those parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable, and the parts that we think are less honorable, we treat with special honor. There you go. See,
it goes back to the Bible once again.
So good. Well, thank you so much, Melissa, for such amazing fundamentals and for being an amazing, amazing woman. Mm-hmm. And it truly is our honor and privilege to have you now in the Unstoppable Overcomers community. And Dorothy, thank you for the privilege as always. And back to you.
Absolutely. I just want to give a shout out to our friend Robbie. She says she's going to watch this after school, but she's listening to some of it because she says we need to treat our bodies like the temple, not a trash can. Absolutely.
Amen. Amen. Garbage disposal.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Clearly. I mean, it's funny because I finally got it. I'm like, why am I treating my body like a human garbage can? Because that's not what God intended, right? But the conversations we have to have with ourselves and the digging to get rid of the crap that we've been holding on to.
Well, hold on, because I can't. So never ask why. Always ask what has me. Because why will kick in the ego and the identity, and we definitely don't want it answering that question.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just had to put for the audience. Be in discovery, not in defense, right? Yeah.
100%. And so, Melissa, where is the best place for people to reach you?
Yeah, my website, which you beautifully got scrolling across the bottom of the screen there, free, the number 2, the letter B, coaching.com. There's resources, all my socials, everything is there.
Perfect. Well, we thank you so much for joining us tonight, Melissa.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I know there's people watching. They're just too shy to say hi. And that's okay. We love you anyways. And yes, love.
Wait, get it up, Melissa. Get it up. There we go.
Screenshot.
I was trying. I'm like, how can I do this? I'll go back and
she'll go back. She'll get it. She'll get it.
I'll get it.
She's a powerful producer. She's amazing.
What that was at a minute 101. Okay, yeah. I'll go back 101. So I don't have to go through everything. And exactly. So with that, guys, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Melissa, for being such an amazing guest and being vulnerable to speak about such a topic. Late talks on air. Hi, I believe that's my cousin Debbie. Or no, Nancy. Sorry, I get the sisters mixed up. Sorry, Nancy. Welcome. Glad to have her here. This is the first time I believe she's listened to one of our episodes, so that's awesome. Glad to have her here. With that, guys, though, be unstoppable in all that you do. Go check out our YouTube channel. Go check out our Roku channel. It's all at Unstoppable Overcomers. Subscribe. Leave amazing reviews. Share, most importantly. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the bell icon so that when we go live, you know. And with that, guys, be unstoppable in all that you do, and same time, same channel next week. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody. Mwah.